Good morning and welcome to OG Foundation, capital of the sovereign state of Elodium. I am your host, Sovereign Non of Elodium. It is Friday morning, just before noon. This is episode 13 of a 24-week campaign season. And so that means we've passed the halfway mark of the season. And this is how far I've gotten. So started off building that whole dome over there, and then build that arch and all this, and then that whole ferro cement floor in tension. And I've got a good start on the dome on the roof over there. And then on this part of the roof, it's not fully enclosed, but the shape is pretty clear at this point. And then over here is I'm working on this edge here, pushing this edge that way. So some of the objectives for the near term in the next day or two is I want to bridge this new sort of column with that. So I've got some metal work to do here, and then to connect that, as well as figuring out the shape for that window. That's a project. Shaping and kind of like doing the metal work, finish work around these windows takes a while. But another objective is to bridge from here over to there and that rebar. And that will be another important structural thing, which includes kind of shaping this window. Over here, I had started this little stool step structural thing. And this morning, while the last episode was kind of buffering or whatever, I did some metal work to start the week, which is with that stool there. Got the left side of it, the metal on, and so the next batch of mortar, I can get some mortar on that to rock that into place. And then I also got a window prepped into there. So that's like a little window that was from an oven, a recycled window. And so I taped it over on both sides, tied it in up there, and now I can mortar over it. And I also put kind of like a little ledge right above the window, which will serve the dual, actually three purposes in one. So it'll create a 3D effect from the outside to make the wall seem thicker. On the inside, it'll work both as a little like ledge where you could store little knick-knack things, or if you're standing on the balcony there, it can be kind of like a handhold to help balance you. So now that I've got that prepped, I'm basically ready to get this last section of wall done over here as well. And then so another area to focus on is here, and kind of pushing that corner as the wall meets the dome, working that forward as much as I can from that little walkway right there. Excuse me. And also just getting a second coat on all of that so I can pull those forms from the outside and then plaster on the outside. Then over here, I've got to do that section to extend that out. I've got to undercoat this where I did this last batch here. Oh, hey, kitty. You found your way over here. So smart. And then another thing I did this morning was starting to bend that arch with the shape above that window space. And I guess the kitty is just going to meow incessantly and interrupt this video. But I guess that's kind of the end of the intro. So I'm also kind of focusing on shaping this arch, both of these windows, and kind of getting a finish point that I can work my way back from. But also I have to keep enough spaces actively ongoing so that I have enough spaces to put the mortar as I do them. So currently I'm pretty close to having, if I don't already, having enough spaces available to do a batch of mortar. And so once I do that, I'll probably just do the mortar and then get back into metalwork to prep some more spaces. And the kitty has been so polite. Where did she go? Oh, she left. So you're ignoring me. So that's where everything is, and I'm not sure if I'm going right to metalwork or right to mortar work, but I'll give you updates. Friday evening, just one batch today. Got Africa on there, or maybe it's I don't know. So over there, got the window mortared in for our first batch anyways. And just kind of like a start on the kind of sill above it. The window sill above the window. And then got some more coverage on there. Got that last ring mortared in and mortar out to the that rebar connection there. And then the last bit of that just about all filled in, except for one teeny tiny little bit. And I think there's a second coating on all of that stuff. There's a double coat on the outside. Then here I got this little stool thing mortared in on the side, and I made a bit of progress on shaping these things here. So I got this sidewall all in. I got to start to a middle kind of shelf thing there. It's still kind of uneven, but it should be close enough to be able to work with. I don't know if I got any more on the top there, but I got some mortar around this arch and some mortar on that arch. I'm really trying to make sure I get the shape right. It's kind of difficult, so I'm going really slowly with those arches because you can't really. It's important to get those as close to semicircular as possible. So now I think I'm gonna do metal work and focus on these two areas to bridge over each window, which I'll focus on this evening, and then probably mortar tomorrow if the weather's permitting in the morning. So here down by the goat's pen, I'm still in the process of separating out the branches that still have any leaves on them from all the rest, and then enough have accumulated where I'm going ahead and recycling my burnables and also all of these branches from feeding the goats, and recycle that back into the air. And 2 objectives, well actually 3, cleaning the goat pen, and then recycling the material, the dead material, and my burnables, 3 in 1. The sticks is all fired. All fired up. You be careful, kitty. Don't you try to jump on the dragon from there. That's dangerous, girl. Very dangerous. I don't know if you can get up here. It might be too tricky for a kitty. No, not from there. You'd have to go on the stool. You gotta go on the stool. Are you gonna jump on there? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. You're basically flying. You could get it if you get on the stool first, sweetheart. Go on the stool right next to you. You almost had it. You almost had it. I saw you just flying right up here. You're flying, cat. Get a little dragon into you. Get a little dragon in the kitty, and she's flying all over the place. Go on the stool. You can make it. The stool's right next to you. You're gonna not go from there, are you? You could probably make it with those jumping skills. It's pretty scary though. It's quite the jump. You gonna go for it? You don't know? No, not quite sure. Alright, I'm getting back to work on the wire ties. Wire ties. Saturday morning, I prepped a good bit of the kind of maybe the forehead of the dragon, and I think I've got it situated where I can connect into that column there. Over here it's still a bit tricky. I might be able to connect it, but I think right there in the middle, like right there, it gets a little tricky. But I'm going to see about undercoating the dome there. Now that there's basically just about full coverage, close up the last little gap there and get as much kind of coverage undercoating over here as I can, and then work on those little shelves there, that halfway up one and then that top one, and kind of these arches as I'm able to get the shape quite right. But there's a lot, like the undercutting stuff takes a while, and I gotta get through the first batch as fast as possible. So probably also get a good bit on this wall, and then maybe pull some forms after that. So here's an example of removing a form. This form here was originally stapled on. It was light enough to hold from the inside as I stapled it on, and now it's served its purpose. And all of these staples that you can see, I'll bend them up, and then it'll be all prepped for a wet batch of mortar. I'm going to pull that form down there also, the one right below. Here's the outside there after those two forms are removed. And I got the ladder all situated. So the next batch will be nice and wet, and I'll get some, try to get 2 coats on there. And so that'll probably take about 2 buckets, so I gotta prep some other spaces for the remaining 2 buckets. So I'm up here on the outside of the tower, on the top of this little steep ladder, on a sketchy scaffolding connected to a tree. Just a couple 2x4s. I've reset my hooks up here, which are gonna hold the bucket. You gotta have 2 to hold the handle from 2 points so it doesn't fall, essentially. So here's my last surface that I need to get coverage with a really wet batch on, and now I'm ready for batch of mortar. Batch number 2 of the day. After the second batch on Saturday, I was able to get coverage on all of this. Some of it's a little rough, but most of it's good. How's that for rough right there? That needs some coverage on the outside. Oh boy. And then there's full coverage on the dome. More coverage over here. And this outside area of these 2 forms. Got full coverage. Nice and smooth coat. And then started going up as far as I could on the dome there. And then some of the new stuff over there got undercoated, all on the left side basically. But that'll do it for mortar on Saturday, 2 batches. And see what we get to do tomorrow. Round 2 of egg pickling is complete, and now my fridge will be just about completely full of eggs. I'm all caught up on the eggs. I've just got 3 jars of brine remaining to fill in a 3rd round once I get a little bit behind on the eggs again. I just pulled the forms on the side here, and I wanted to show you what the window looks like there. It's like the oven window. I think it'll be pretty cool once it's all mortared in. Just gotta clean it up a little bit. I'll have to reposition this ladder to try to get it high enough to be able to do this tall part over here, and then transition from what I can reach from where I'm standing. Oh gosh, I almost lost balance. So I can reach like another 6 inches with my left arm, up to a foot maybe. So I'll have to get the ladder positioned so that it can get all of the rest of it, which I think is going to entail using the insulation panels to build a little platform to put the ladder on, which will be sketchy, but hopefully I only have to do it once. We're getting a visit from the neighbors. Symbiosis. What do you think, Rocate? With 10 of them hedging, it's worth my time to supervise. Have an iron fist to keep them in line. Up on the dome here, I've begun the forms for the crenelations, and I've got some mortar, so I'm going to get some coverage up here. After a bucket and a half, I've got some good coverage on this first section of like 2 pieces of remesh and a little over 1 piece of lath, and the level and the other thing are kind of buttressing that to get it the right angle, and yeah, the wire ties are basically kind of holding it to the remesh. And basically, as long as this can cure in the right position, then this will be a great start, because there's a corner in there and it'll all be rocked into place. And these crenelations aren't going to be very tall, so you can see right there the height of them. It's like when you're standing up here, it's kind of like knee high, but this isn't going to be a place where people really go very often that I anticipate. So I'm not going to put a whole bunch of labor and money into making it taller. And someone could always make it taller later, I suppose, but that's all for this section for today. So with the rest of the batch on Monday, I got that window really well mortared in, and coverage on that area where I removed those forms, and on this form here for that correcting that arch and getting it its side sort of thing. Sidewall, I guess. Ugh. And then a bit outside on that same arch. And over here, got this connected above this window, and more reinforcement on that one above that window, with just a little bit more up there. So only one batch of mortar today, even though it was a nice day, but I got a lot of metal work done and some miscellaneous other stuff is going on, so one batch is good. The horses did a great job edging the area today. Now they're over there. There's some fireworks going off there straight in. Will it focus on there? I'm sitting up on the little porch thing, enjoying the sunset. Tuesday morning, I finished prep on another piece of lath up here, up on the kind of forehead of the dragon, and got some rings into that piece of rebar and kind of readjusted it. And I've got enough surfaces prepped for a batch of mortar, probably about 1.5 buckets over here, maybe a bucket on that stuff, and the remaining bucket roughly to a second coat the crenelations there. It's pretty strong, still a little moves back and forth, but as you can see I could take out the supports and it's still holding itself in place. But with the second coat, then it'll really solidify. And once I get that second coat on and get that kind of squared away for the start, then I can start progressing with forms going that way as well. But first thing, cure the animals, getting out of oatmeal, and then I should get right into the first batch of mortar. So at the end of the day on Tuesday, I only ended up getting one batch done, but got some decent coverage on this side wall and a lot of coverage up under here, or on top of that, I guess. I was like on the verge of doing a second batch and doing undercoating, but I'm a bit weary halfway through the season and it's taking a toll on me, but I'm self-medicating and doing my best to maintain the pace. I don't even remember where the rest of that batch went. Oh, I guess some of it on the crenellation and some more on top. And anyways, I did a bunch of prep work since. I've gotten lath up over here and over there and in various places, so that tomorrow I can get a bunch of coverage with the mortar, and it should be a good day for it. Wednesday morning, got an early start, and the first 2 buckets are over here, extending that kind of rain guard out, anchoring this remesh in, and pushing the mortar coverage that way beyond my kind of main arch here, so that it gets closer, or that I can work towards the remaining opening space from both directions. And in that kind of spirit, I'm also trying to get a connection over here where there's this kind of like quarter or half a semicircle, quarter of a circle, that it's really difficult to mortar that without a ladder on the outside, and I can't reach over from this side. So I kind of innovated this idea where I put plastic over it, and then I put another piece of remesh over the plastic and kind of tied that down. And the idea being that I'll be able to plaster it from underneath, and the plastic will kind of be like a loose form, sort of. So I'm going to try that next, and then get some more undercoating on the dragon thing there. There's ring number, I guess, 5 I put in over there, which will be most likely for flower basket. All of these 3 could be as well. That one that's in. And then got another ring here, that would be 6. That one's a little bit smaller, but similar reason, most likely hanging flower baskets. I was thinking about putting them in these arches, but I messed up, and they're not going to go in those arches. But oh well, that only gets afternoon light. That's probably not the best light anyways. I should probably try to get one up in that top arch, because that'll get good sun, and if there's a way up there, could be a hanging basket as well. But now I'm gonna see what this looks like from the inside. It's got the lath on the inside, plastic over it, and so I'm gonna try to plaster that whole section and see how it goes in the next bucket. And then this is how much of this is undercoated like a lot of it. So that'll take all the rest of the batch. Anyways, that's what got to finish this early morning batch. So that actually worked really well. I made sure it was a really dry kind of bucket, so it wouldn't kind of just flow down. And I got some really good coverage on the most difficult parts of that. These are 3 plum tree, basically suckers from this plum tree that have grown out under here. This one is another former sucker that grew out underneath the path and then popped out here, which is doing really well. So here is another example of the goats destroying the bark on a tree. And this one here is completely ringed. This tree here has no bark all the way around. And yet, why it shows how stupid I am is not only that this has happened again after last week, or the week before, I forget at this point. It happened to a prized apple tree in a day. And I acted rashly and like cut it and tried to like, I don't even know, graft it. But point being that this happened like a week ago, and this tree is still looking healthy. So my assumption was just that all of the nutrient is coming in the bark, but obviously this tree demonstrates that a lot of its essentials are coming in the wood of the tree and not just the bark. So I don't know, the trees, I was assuming it was going to die a while ago, but this one's doing really well. So it turns out that I killed that apple tree, and that it very well might have recovered if I hadn't had chopped it up and Frankensteined it. And anyways, learning lesson at the cost of one apple tree, which I invested several years and a lot of labor into. But anyways, good to know. And this is a good place to learn the lesson, where there's 3 kind of like sucker ones, because even if these 2 did die, then just the one remaining is probably better in the long run for fruit production. But I still hope that these 2 that got damaged from the goats survive, and then I'll use them as kind of learning lessons of how trees can recover from goat damage. This right here is my teacher. You see that crack, that horizontal crack there. So what that is telling me, feedback from the master of the universe. So the crack means that right here, in between this and this, it's pulling apart, which is because the roof is pushing outward, and because there's no tensile strength reinforcement in between the vertical and the horizontal. I was just thinking of it more from like a compression buttress perspective versus tension. So because the weight is going out and down, and it's pushing it out, and then that doesn't have the tensile strength to resist it, then it cracks at the place of the weakest place, which is right there. So that tells me how the structure is moving, that it's the way that it's displacing the weight currently, that it's wanting to push outward. And then it also shows me how I can reinforce it, either by extending that up to the arch, so the arch puts its weight on the left side versus the right side of that column, and then it'll send weight down to the middle of that, which is probably going to be the ideal solution. Or if I wanted to keep it sort of how it is, I would have to add tensile strength that bridges the crack, starts from down here, bridges the crack, and then integrates into that thing. I don't know if my pointing is doing very good. Anyways, so that would be like a piece of rebar that would curve from there to the outside. But most likely what I'll do is just extend the beam there up into the vertical. So that just is one little example of how I can take a little lesson from some crack. Crack is the teacher here. So I'm all prepped for a second batch for today. I've got some undercoat there to do. I've got a lot prepped out there. I've got 2 more pieces of remesh out there, which I can sort of mortar in, which I was kind of resisting doing, but it'll be good to have them, and I'll show you more about that later. And then the whole outside corner here, I don't know if you can see it, but this is like really raw, and I removed some forms, and that's all ready to get mortared as well. So just about ready to get into a batch of mortar on all these various places. So, and I'll show you the outside over here, which is also where I'm gonna get at least a bucket on this top of this ladder. The sub is doing good over here. coming up on 2 weeks old. Grizzly's chickies are over there making noises. I don't know if you can see them, but they're doing good as well. So over here in the corner in fisheye view, I was able to get really good coverage on the first several feet of that I could reach. And then it transitions into that kind of bent section, and then a little bit up there I couldn't quite reach. So I'll have to get a bit bigger ladder over here to do so. But that corner went really well, and that'll be a lot stronger now. You can see over there I got some undercoating on that dragon's head thing. And then a bit more coverage here as well, kind of connecting the wall over that arch section and into that front section. And yeah, just trying to close that gap in between that area as much as possible. And started to get a little bit out on this kind of horizontal, almost like ducktail type section. And so maybe tomorrow I'll be able to progress those two sides kind of towards the middle. But I got a second coat on that there, so that's a solid arch. And I'll just wait till tomorrow to tie off a couple of those pieces before getting final coverage on it. Or at least one more thick coat before dismantling that plastic and lath. And that's about it for the second batch today. There's a bit more coverage up top as well. And just steady incremental progress. Oh yeah, the last thing was getting good coverage on this sidewall, which that form is helping with. And then on both sides, so I should be able to pull this form here tomorrow. Now I'm installing a window over here. I got it to fit in the hole, and it's not quite level, so if I could cut that little piece of remesh and bring it down a 1/4 inch, it'll be a 1/4 inch closer to level. So I'm gonna get a grinder, get an extension cord up here through there, get a grinder up here and grind that down just so that this can be a little bit tighter. But this is a recycled window from a previous tenant, and man, I should have left the space open wider. It was such a tight fit, but I got it squeezed in there, and we'll get it as level as possible and secure it for now and get it all lathed up so I can mortar right up to it in the next batch. Alright, so the window is successfully mounted. I didn't need a grinder. Sawzall worked just fine, and that was nice and easy. And now you can see I'm just screwing the lath around it. I guess the mortar will connect to the wood, and then we'll just kind of encase the laminate part, and then there will just be some sort of caulk sealing on the outside, and then I'll probably build some sort of kind of like rain block thing above it. But the window's open, so we'll see how that looks. Alright, so the Molly Stark Tower has its first opening window. Second window overall after that little blue one. And that actually makes the whole lath situation a lot easier. I don't even really need to make a whole lath box, or like whatever parts that are missing, I can just staple it to the wood that's there, as opposed to like wiring up a whole box. So that'll be easier than I expected. So I'll probably do this window, not today, but might focus on that tomorrow. And this window won't have like a box frame around it, so we'll see if it's a little bit different. Did you see that bird? Thursday morning. So the window is mounted. The final forms have been removed, and there's just, it's kind of hard to see because of the lighting, but there's just that one strip where there was a form that I'll have to mortar up today and then smooth over with the other stuff. And then you can see the remesh on top. That's going to end up with like a crenellation pattern, like a staircase crenellation type pattern. So that's why I was also kind of tying in with the last batch. So I was thinking about not doing it at all, but it'll be good to have that for safety's sake, so I don't have the burden on me of people dying from falling off there and falling to their death. It'll be a little safety measure. Though I didn't really want it, but it's not really meant for people to go up on all the time, but I'm sure people will because it's the tallest point currently. So I'm about to get into prepping, like mortar that window in and stuff. Just gonna give you this shot. So the last form spot got covered up nice and smooth, and I got a little bit mortar on the outside of the window, but I'll have to move the ladder to really mortar it in on the outside, maybe for the next batch. And then on the inside, I got the window fully mortared in, connected with short screws into the wood all around. So there's nothing really anchoring it into the vinyl window other than the original kind of wood frame, and they put this in as probably like a replacement for a rotted out wooden frame. It's a nice kind of faux stone thing. It might be stone, I don't know. It is pretty heavy. But I got really good coverage all around it. It'll need a second coat, but it's like in there really solid. And then the rebar is just trying to level it as much as possible on that one corner. And then I got finished coverage on that thing, so I can take that plastic down next. And then the next batch I can get coverage to bridge that arched cement with the cement that's already there. So that'll be a big bridge moment. Might have to do a little metal work before that. And then 2 buckets on the main head of the dragon here. And if I time it right, I might be able to get some undercoating on that today, but undercoating is always the hardest, so we'll see if we get to that today. But gonna do a little bit of prep, or I don't know, I could probably just get into mortar right away, only if that's cured enough though. So zooming out, you can see that I'm reaching towards, from several different points, the mortar is reaching towards the middle. Also got rid of that form, so ready for some mortar on that side wall to kind of smooth that out. And over here, where I was showing you this column, I added lath to the top section, and then got that lath all mortared in pretty darn well in one coat of mortar. And that should redirect the force further out from the sidewall, so about 6 inches, so down like the inner angle, which will end up putting force down there as opposed to it lifting up because of the other one moving out. If that makes any sense. But it'll need more coats, just like everything. I'm just trying to assess if this is dry enough to do an undercoating, and before readjusting my ladder to get up top, and because I could probably put basically a whole batch under here. So in the final batch on Thursday, I got undercoating on all of the fresh stuff and the older stuff. I got, hey girl, I got double like cement coats around this window. Hey girl, let's make a final video. How's about it? So this is pretty close to like a finish. Oh, that reminds me, I gotta clean off the face of that. And then up there, I got that bridge as well. So that'll start to be more solid after it gets an overcoat and an undercoat. But I can then start to work my way this way, and yeah, you can. Hey girl. Hey good girl. You can see what's left of the roof. And how this corner over here is looking. I like it. But that's all for the project stuff for this week. I'll be tackling this next week. It's the end of the day on Thursday. Boys doing a little grazing, and the kitty being super brave. So nonchalant around the goats. So that's all for this week. Really tackling that dragon head. See you next week.